Hello, hello. Changemaker Sandra Madaffrey again with another installment of Business Secrets. And I'm really excited tonight about my special guest. This particular guest works in an area which is very close to my heart, and an area that I've been attempting to get as many practitioners in this field as possible over the last couple of years of training as many men as possible to work in the arena of mental health when it comes to men themselves. We know that we live in a culture where a lot of men don't like to talk about how they feel and what's going on around them. And I think it's really important for us to break down these barriers. And I'm very pleased and honoured to say that Rod is actually attempting to do this. So welcome, Rod. Would you like to tell everyone a little about yourself?
I would like to start off with. Yes, I've worked a lot with teenagers over the years and seen them grow into men. And I've worked with a lot of men that are really now, like this last, we can use COVID as the example, but it's probably before that. Men that, us blokes, we just don't like talking about our issues, and it's really difficult for us to get into a space that we feel safe and we know that the person that we're talking to, we can trust them, because us blokes are a little bit untrusting, and we just need to know that the person that we're talking to has got our back, basically. So I've been doing a bit of work around that sort of area. I was a teacher's aide for 3 years at the local high school, and although technically I wasn't allowed to, I did do a lot of work with the kids, mainly the boys, and just find out where they're at and why they do things that they do. And I one thing I did do was study their behavioural patterns and why they did things, and I would see them do something, and I would then question them why they did that. And it was quite interesting to find out the real reasons why they did things that they did. And it's to take themselves out of an environment where they feel unsafe. And and it's sad that these guys that struggle at school, the cognitive learner like I was when I was at school, struggle in the classroom, and they do things that take them out of that space to make themselves feel safe, and in the process get into trouble and get suspensions and stuff. And it's quite interesting and when I questioned them, their actions, they knew that I knew what they were doing. And it was quite interesting,
yeah. I guess it's almost a survival mechanism for them.
Very much so, yes, it is. And at the end of the day, I know we push hard for schooling results, and we do all these testing, like there's 13 different tests per year and all that sort of stuff. These guys struggle with that environment, and when they finish their schooling, they're street smart, like very smart individuals, but the academic side of it, they struggle.
Yeah.
And it's a barrier between the two sections, I guess. It's
sorry, go ahead.
It's difficult for them, and then they take that into manhood when they go out to the workforce, and they take those behaviours with them. And if they're in a situation where they feel threatened, they'll do what they did when they were at school.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes they lose their employment.
And then we start a massive roller coaster, don't we, of or domino effect of things just going wrong. One of the things that I'm very passionate about, and it's a pity that it hasn't come to pass, is the fact that we really do need to get to our kids a lot younger, even before they become teenagers, because teaching, especially young boys, and you hear it, not so much these days, but I know when I was growing up, it was like boys don't cry and all these sorts of things. And if we could just get to these young boys when they're even younger than teenagers, I think we could help a lot of them stay out of trouble.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
Totally agree. It's something that, for whatever reason, society frowns on men showing their emotions, and for whatever reason, you're supposedly weak for showing your emotions. So we hang on to them, and it becomes an inferno within us. And then we turn to things like alcohol or cigarettes or crime or whatever, because it's our outlet. And we need to be, it's not about educating, I don't think. It's more about allowing boys to show that emotion and stop this, all these stupid sayings that go with that. And it's just ridiculous that we continue to push these kids. And then when they get into trouble, we blame the kid, but it's not, it's just a society that's
absolutely.
Well,
yeah. Oh, we have, as you said, a bloke. We have a really blokey bloke type culture here in Australia, tough man and stuff like that, which I do believe works very much against society, because blokes are people too, they're humans, they bleed, as my grandmother used to say as well. If you cut yourself, you bleed as well. But for some reason, the Aussie bloke is just such a big thing here in Australia, and these kids grow up with that attitude, and we see it on TV in our shows and everything as well, which doesn't help.
Yeah, and we see it so much on social media too.
Oh yeah,
it's sad.
Yeah,
but there was an ad a couple of years ago, and I can't remember what it was. I just remember the actions within it, and it was just, I didn't understand it. There was a boy that was being nasty to another child at a backyard barbecue, and the father, he didn't do much about it. The mother stepped in and did something and sort of said whatever they said, and that was, to me, the man should have been the one in that ad that stepped forward and said to his son, "Hey mate, you need to stop that."
Yeah.
But it wasn't, and I'm not being sexist.
Yeah.
The bloke still stood back in that commercial, and yes, we've got to call out bullying and bad behaviour, but that should have portrayed the man stepping forward and saying, "Hey mate, come, let's stop doing that."
Yeah.
So society creates this false persona of
100%. Yeah. So tell me, and for anyone who's watching or listening to this, how do you go about helping our younger men and our older men? Like, what are the procedures that you use? What are some of the things that you do with them to help them be able to face what they're going through?
I like to observe their behaviours, because to me their behaviour shows more about, because we can't see their emotional or mental state, we can only see the physical state. And when we're actually physically watching their behaviours and their patterns and the things that they do, we can see their emotions. It comes out in their actions. So I get an idea of where, and I'll use the kids as the students as the example. I could watch them and see that there was something going on, and some days there was kids that were driving a pen into a table with deep aggression, and so I knew that there was something else going on. So I would go and sit with them or take them out of the room or whatever, and just ask basic questions and let them answer, open-ended questions, not why you're doing that. What's going on, buddy? What's happening? Why do you look angry today? So I just try and get people to relax and just talk about what's happening with them. then when they're ready, not when I think they're ready, when they're ready, which I think is the important step, is that we too often force an idea upon somebody and they don't want to do it. And I think that makes them, it's not rebel, it makes them sit deeper within themselves.
Yeah.
We need to bring that together. So when they're ready, I would just make some suggestions for them and some ways that they might be able to change that pattern or that behavior or that emotional state. Maybe the thing that was upsetting them, maybe there's a different way that they can work around that and work with it and change their mindset on things that are happening. And they might have had an argument with a parent for whatever reason. And society today, we take the electronic device off them and it's they fall over. Like they don't have the resilience to understand that it's only an electronic device that doesn't need to be controlling us. So they may have had, and I'm just using this as an example.
Yeah.
They may have had a disagreement with a parent about an electronic device, be it phone, Xbox, whatever, being taken away from them for whatever reason, and it's created some anger within inside, and it's probably more anxious anxiety because you've taken that connection away from them, their safety device away from them. So I try and work with them and just say to them, well, maybe there's a reason why the parent did that. What was the reasoning around it? What did you actually do to create that? And make them aware of the fact that they may have done something to have created that situation, and then understand that the parents are trying to do the best they can with what they got.
Yeah.
So we go down that path and just try and get them to understand where they're at, and maybe in the future be able to have some tools in the toolbox to cope with that a bit better.
Yeah.
And just make some better choices around what they're doing and the reason why they do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that I really do wish was taught in schools. We really, and I'm not saying education's not important, because I do believe education is important, but I think we need to have a look at how resilient our children are, and because resilient kids grow into resilient adults. And unfortunately, and something that pains me to have to talk about this, but male suicide is through the roof. We don't hear about it, but I can tell you that in the last probably 2.5 years, I've known of about 7 or 8 suicides. Some being people that I know or acquaint, all people I know, and they've all been male. So there's that, to me, shows that something's wrong. Something's wrong. And there's just not enough help. Us women, we can chuck tantrums and it's okay. And also too, we have women's circle. One of the things that I've seen some men doing lately, which I think is absolutely fantastic, is creating men's bonding circles and stuff like that. But I think, when we've got it, we're in a society, and I know that not long ago on the news, they were talking about construction workers, and had been a lot of suicide there, that there's something wrong. If this is happening at this enormous amount, there's something, and we have to intervene at a younger age. What's your perspective on all of that?
Yeah, I totally agree, and it's a subject that we don't seem to be. We're throwing lots and millions of dollars at it, but at the end of the day, we're still not getting on top of it. And there's lots of organisations and stuff like that you have to phone them, and someone that's contemplating suicide, it's not committing suicide because you don't commit a crime. It used to be a crime apparently if you suicided, but now it's you die by suicide, which is really sad. But so we need to change the wording around that to start off with. It's not committing suicide anymore. It's contemplating and passing away or dying from suicide.
Yeah.
A lot of the organisations, for me, give you a solution without knowing the underlying problem. And there's some good organisations out there, and there's other ones that just seem to be missing the mark a little bit where they maybe need to be. And we don't listen enough. I think that's a big. We listen to answer, we don't listen to understand. And quite often we're already coming up with an answer to something that we think is a problem, but all the person really wants you to do is sit and listen.
Yeah.
And wait for them to finish and then make suggestions. And it's not an answer to the problem, it's a suggestion to help them out. And a lot of guys will go, and I'll say men because that's the issue. A lot of men will go to a counsellor or a psychologist or whatever, psychiatrist. And sometimes, and it depends, there's some excellent psychiatrists and counsellors and that out there, don't get me wrong. But there's some that actually make these people feel worse. And I don't know whether it's their training, whether it's their own mindset, their own demeanour. I'm not sure. But some guys struggle when they go and see a professional, and it seems to make them worse. But then there's the guys that don't get the help, that just gradually get further and further and further down. We talk about resilience, and to me, there's resilience is like an elastic band. If you have an elastic band, it just sits in its natural shape. If you just get an elastic band and throw it on the table, it'll just sit in its natural shape. If you stretch it, or if you screw it up and let it go, it comes back to that shape again. But to me, what's happening now is that elastic band is becoming distorted. People have been having their elastic band stretched, and they don't know how to get it back to its natural state. And if you put resilience in a line, that you're never going to be perfectly resilient ever. You're kidding yourself if you say that. But if you have a line with like some radio waves on it, like that, that's sort of life. You'll have a bad day, a good day, a couple of good days, a couple of bad days.
Yeah. But
resilience now, it seems to be below that line. And we seem to be staying below. But if that's the marker, if that's the labelled line,
yeah,
we seem to be down here now, and we don't know how to get back up there. And the more that elastic band is either crumpled up or stretched, the lower down we become, and we get to a point where anything, no matter what it is, anything small can actually tip us over into a state of depressed mind, anxiety,
yeah,
and unfortunately some suicide.
Yeah. There's
going back to the teaching.
Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say there's two points that I loved what you said. Number one, when it comes to psychiatrists and things like that, I think that what happens is I think that sometimes now I'm mind reading here, right? This is just my perception of what happens, having been there myself many, many years ago. I think there's, once you go and see a counsellor or a psychologist or psychiatrist, there's a level of pressure that you need to get better. And I think that could be part of the issue there. I don't know. I'm just mind reading that. The other thing that I think is a massive problem is that there's a lot of pressure from society as a whole. And I think that what we've forgotten to do with our children is to teach our kids the tools from when they're young kids, how to bounce back or how to think, or to realize that, things happen and it's okay to accept that things are going to go wrong. I think I'm trying to think of the way to say this, but the only way to say it is that there seems to be this push about positive thinking, positive mind, positive. So it's almost like if you're having a bad day, and we all have bad days, right? No matter how much work, personal development work we've done, and I can say that wholeheartedly talking about myself, still have bad days, but the knowing that it's okay. It's okay. You're allowed to have a bad day, allows you to keep going. But the problem is when we don't know that, when we're made to feel like there's something wrong with us if we've had a bad day. Why can't we be positive? Why can't we look at the good things in life? Why can't we be grateful for what I have? I think that puts pressure. And I think that's where one of the problems lies. And
Yep.
I think we need to get messages to our kids that sometimes things are going to be, it is that up and down, that's life, and it's okay. It's not going to last forever. That too shall pass.
Yeah. But one of our biggest fears in life is not being good enough.
Mm.
Especially and we carry it into our adult lives as well. We get told that you're intelligent, you're smart, you whatever, but you missed the mark on a test, and then you're told that you failed, but you're smart and you're all these things. So now you're being told you're not good enough because you failed that.
Yeah.
But yet you're being told,
Yeah.
you're that. Yeah. And then it's the other way around as well. And then there's the ones that are below that. I always, and this isn't the teacher, it's just my perception and what I saw in the classroom. The teachers go to university and are taught to teach in a box.
Yes.
Right? Above that, or no matter which way it is, above the box is the gifted kids, the talented kids, the ones that are always a half a year or a year in front of everybody else. And then below it is the boy, well, I shouldn't say boys because there's girls as well, the ones that struggle, the cognitive learners that take so long to take something in that they fall behind. So they call dumb and stupid and you'll never be anything in life. And you're called, what's wrong with you? You're a lot smarter than that. Yeah. But at the end of the day, they aren't good enough and they aren't good enough. Yeah. And the teacher's teaching in this little box. And that's probably 80%. It's the 80-20 rule probably.
Yeah.
That's 80% of the classroom.
Yeah.
There's 10% up here and 10% down there of the not good enoughs in either direction. You're being judged. And the teachers aren't, it's not their fault. Like, I'm not blaming teachers, and they tried really. They taught to teach in that box. And to get funding for these kids, you're getting funding for these kids to have a specialist teacher. You could probably have these ones in the same room as these ones, and they could learn from them and they could learn from them. It's one of those areas that, but you can't get the funding for those sorts of specialist teacher. So these kids fall off. Mm. And it's these kids in the box that go on to do, and I'm not saying like this, and I'm not saying not judging at all, but Richard Branson's, who else was there? Like the guys that left school at 13, 14 and 15, the multi-millionaires that were never going to be anything. Mm. Like where I live, there's young guys that when I've been associated with that school for nearly 20 years now. And there was kids there that 10, 15 years ago that were these guys. Mm. And now they run successful building, landscaping, plumbing businesses.
Absolutely.
But they were never going to be anything. And then there's these people up here that are doing unbelievable things with art and music and technology. These guys up here. And so why do we judge, but why do we put labels on everything? And why do we put people in a box? I don't understand it. Is it
because I think it's easy to do that. The interesting thing is I actually put a post on Facebook today and I'm going to read it to you. And it talks to something that you've already said. From the moment we received the first gold star for our effort, or didn't, we internalize the idea that if you make it, you matter.
Yep.
And unfortunately, to me, that is one of the biggest problems with society these days. Because if you make it, you matter. What that gold star, and you know, I'm not talking about, I know there's competition, and I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is that we forget to celebrate the attempt, or we forget to celebrate the journey. We only celebrate the outcome, and I think that's where sometimes everything just falls apart, because we've got to remember to celebrate where we've come from, what we've done. And as long as every day we do something for ourselves and not be, you know, dictated by what society norms are, because who wrote the rule that what you see out there is normal, what you have to get a certain score in your VCE and things like that, and that's, you know, that's what you have to do. Who said? You know, and I love that you mentioned Richard Branson, because I actually think he's fantastic. One of the best minds, and he was, and he's not the only one who was told, you know, that he was dumb. There's lots of them. So that just, yeah, just goes.
I think
to
Kerry Packer or his dad, Kerry Packer's dad maybe.
Yeah.
Was just
yeah.
Come off the
So
streets.
absolutely. Yeah. So what's if we've got some men and or some parents that are listening with some young boys who are struggling, what's the one big message you would like them all to hear right now?
I could be very blunt and just say, shut up and listen.
Shut up and
because
listen?
We don't. Shut up and listen.
That's to the parents?
To the parents, sit down with your child and let them talk. Don't judge them. Don't listen to answer. Listen to what your child has to say to you and give them the time. Switch your phone off, switch the telly off, nothing electronic around you. Go outside, sit under a tree or whatever. Find out what they actually want to do. Your child might want to go for a walk around the park or kick the footy or anything. You just don't know what they want to do. And they're stuck in this world of needing to be the perfect child, but yet all they want, and they might just want to cuddle. You know, Dad might come home from work and his son wants to cuddle, but Dad says, "Oh, I've had a really, really shitty day, and you know, I haven't got time for you." You might have had a shitty day, but now he's got a really shitty night because you haven't paid him any attention.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we just need to be engaging with our kids more, find out where they're at, find out why they stay up at night playing Xboxes until 2 o'clock in the morning and then fall asleep in the classroom. Why do they do that? You know, because they have connection with their mates and not with family. And there's lots of other reasons as well, you know. Yeah. We just need to be, and especially after these 2 years of the COVID stuff and lockdowns and all that sort of thing, human connection, physical human connection, spiritual connection, and you know what I mean by spiritual, you know, and it's not the woo stuff, you know, it's the energy between two people, and it's really important. We need to get back to that. We took it for granted. COVID was actually good because it made us wake up. Yeah. Because we got to 2019, and life was just life. And then all of a sudden we get thrown into this upheaval, whether you liked it or not. And it made us understand that this human connection, physical connection is so important. So even doing online learning on a computer in a classroom, there's nothing like being in a classroom. And when the kids finally got back to school, and they were being told they had to wear masks, and they didn't want to do any of that. All they wanted to do is be physically with their mates.
Yeah.
And they just wanted to spend the first week or two reconnecting with their mates physically. That's all they wanted to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
And society needs to do that. It's the same as sporting clubs.
Yeah.
We're having a reinvigoration or restructure, I suppose, of a local sports club up here.
Mm.
And it's really important to be reconnecting physically, and mentally and emotionally and spiritually with everybody, you know, to get people back. Because, you know,
Cool.
so the message to the parents, and if you're a teenager that's listening, or a man that's listening, find someone that you can connect to. It's an old saying that they say that you can count your closest friends on one hand. Like I said, yeah, that's 5. I've got one person in my life, and it's a mate of mine when we've been mates for 40 years. And we were talking the other day with you, Sandra, about that telepathic connection. I know when Woz is going to call me, and Woz knows when I'm going to call him. And it's a game because we know nearly to the minute.
Yeah.
And he lives 2 hours away,
Cool.
you know,
Yeah.
but we cannot speak for a couple of months. And I'll go, oh, I better call Woz tonight. And he'll call me, or he'll be the other way around. I better check how Rod's going, and I'll call him.
Yeah. It's amazing.
And that's just one bloke. And all we do, we just listen to each other. Like, we don't judge each other. We don't.
Yeah.
We talk about anything.
Yeah.
Work.
And that's absolutely important. So
Yeah.
it's been great having you with us tonight, Rod. And I want to send out a message to anyone who is really looking for someone to talk to. I've known Rod for a little while now, and you know, he really is there to listen to people, and you really care, and I just love your the size of your heart when it comes to people. So if anyone's wanting to know a little bit more about what Rod does or wants to connect, we have put some of the details in to the group. But if anyone reaches out to me, sends me a private message, anything like that, I will absolutely make sure to pass the message on to Rod. So thank you so much for being with me tonight. I really appreciate you taking this time to chat with me and to chat with anyone or my followers about a subject, like I said, that is very, very dear to my heart. And since I started training 5 years ago and teaching practitioners, one of the things that I've been really advocating for is to get more male practitioners through my training for this very purpose. And I have been lucky enough to actually have facilitated a training a couple of years ago, which was just men, which was really, really interesting. But we really need more, and we're getting more men coming through, but we really need more men to really step up and become leaders in the field of male mental health. So thank you so much, Rod, for being here. I really do appreciate it.